Suddenly, I heard a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. What are you talking about? You heard me rapping, right?
Hello and welcome to Screen to Page, where I read books based on characters from my favorite films. Today's character is Eric Draven from The Crow. Let me tell you a bit about the movie first before the character. So The Crow is about a rock musician who is murdered with his fiancée, who then comes back from the dead, guided by a mystical crow, to get revenge on the gang that killed them and prove that love never dies. What do I think Eric Draven's energy is? It is love beyond death, grief that bleeds black, tenderness sharpened into purpose, gothic romanticism, justice without joy, poetry as weapon, vengeance that never replaces loss. Books that would suit Eric are ones where mourning becomes motion, love outlives the body, and beauty and violence exist in the same breath. I do have to give a mention that Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, was tragically killed whilst filming this movie. May he rest in peace. I also want to give a shout out to my brother, who I think did an excellent Crow. I am using very old makeup. When I first put the black paint on, I had an allergic reaction and cried everything off. I tried my best to patch it up, but I'm aware this is real raggedy, but I wasn't expecting to have an allergic reaction. So I've gone over it with a black eyeliner, but the damage was done and I just thought, let's just go on, let's just keep going. What book would I recommend that kind of gives the same energy as a love story between Eric and his fiancée? I would say The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger, because it is about devotion that defies time and logic. It is love that persists across impossible circumstances. I read 2 books for this vlog that I thought might suit Eric Draven. One of them, the first of which, is A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. The Eric link, I believe, is that it is about raw grief. It is C.S. Lewis's memoir/grief journal, where faith is questioned, shattered, and slowly reformed. C.S. Lewis is a famous author. He was also an Oxford professor who was famous for defending Christianity when suddenly he finds himself in a theological meltdown after his wife dies. There's a lot of existential crisis, emotional spirals, and reluctant spiritual rebuilding. His loss of his wife causes him a crisis of faith. Not that I am, I think, in much danger of ceasing to believe in God. The real danger is of coming to believe such dreadful things about him. The conclusion I dread is not, so there's no God after all, but, so this is what God's really like. Deceive yourself no longer. I will admit all of the religious crisis stuff wasn't for me, but I really did enjoy the grief bits. They were unfiltered. He was angry and confused and bitter and heartbroken, and it validates, hey Nova, want to say hello? Hi, this is Nova. It validates that grief can shake your beliefs to the core. I also loved the parts about how memory is both a comfort and pain. Her absence is like the sky, spread over everything. But no, that is not quite accurate. There is one place where her absence comes locally home to me, and it is a place I can't avoid. I mean my own body. It had such a different importance while it was the body of H's lover. Now it's like an empty house. I enjoy this. I gave it a 3.5. Like I said, just the heavy religious stuff wasn't my jam. I think you would like this book if you want to read about someone going through grief and loss, or if you are struggling with your faith during a hardship. Similar books or films to this would be The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion, or the film Shadowlands, which is actually based on Lewis's relationship and his subsequent grief. The next book I picked up was Crow, From the Life and Songs of the Crow by Ted Hughes. The Eric link for this is, it is about a crow that is both witness and weapon. It is a book of poetry, and Crow is one of the bleakest poetry collections that I have read. It was written in the shadow of immense tragedy. Hughes wrote most of the collection between the time his first wife, the poet Sylvia Plath, committed suicide by putting her head in the oven, and the time his next wife or lover, Asia Wevel, committed suicide the same way in 1969, taking their 4-year-old daughter, Shura, with her. Ted did dedicate The Crow to both Asia and his daughter, Shura. In this, the language is very stripped down. It's short lines, violent imagery, grotesque humor, and myth rewritten as nightmare. The Crow, the character of the Crow himself, is a survivor of cosmic cruelty. He's mutilated, mocked, broken, but never fully destroyed. The key themes in this poetry collection were of survival against meaningless suffering, the failure or cruelty of God, violence as a fundamental force, the broken human condition, myth dismantled and rewritten, and dark humor as resistance. I am going to read one of the poems to you. This is called Oedipus Crow. Mummies stormed his torn insides. With their bandages and embalming honey, he contorted clear, he vomited empty, he flew. A gravestone fell on his foot and took root. He bit through the bone and he fled. The water spirit in the happy valley twined his brains with primroses, dog roses, pulling his mouth down to the wet humus. With a howl he left what she held, and he ran, cheered by the sound of his foot and its echo, and by the watch on his wrist, one-legged, gutless and brainless, the rag of himself. So death tripped him easy, and held him up with a laugh, only just alive, and his watch galloped away in a cloud of corpse dust. Crow dangled from his one claw, corrected, a warning. This poetry collection, I won't say it was for me. It wasn't something that I particularly connected to or enjoyed reading. God does feature heavily in the majority of the poems, albeit not in a flattering way. Some of the language, especially in terms of people of color, was also a bit outdated. And yeah, this wasn't for me, but I think you would like it if you are a fan of myth retellings in poetry and are a fan of poetry that features crows. Similar books or films to this in terms of vibes, I would say Ariel by Sylvia Plath, or the movie The Crow. It's all about that death, resurrection, and gothic rage. Whilst neither of these books fix grief, they name it and rage against it. For me, the activity that I'm doing today is I will be writing a letter to a loved one of mine who has passed away. Obviously, I'm not going to be sharing that on here, but I will leave you with some footage of the crows or ravens, I still don't know what they are, that come to visit my garden. And until next time, it can't rain all the time.
Can't rain all the time.